news that dropped earlier on Sunday afternoon that USC defensive coordinator Alex Grinch has been fired on his day off. Now, if you are an SC fan, this is probably something that you knew was going to come down the line. Dare I say you're elated by this news. If you're an Oklahoma fan and you've been following USC as closely as you have, you don't have to tell nobody the lie that you ain't, because you are, because I have been, and I've been there the whole time. You probably saw this coming too, because the thing about USC going into this season was they're supposed to be contending for a college football playoff spot, let alone the Pac-12 title. With their third loss and their second in the conference, they are a far cry from playing in the Pac-12 title game. However, they got Oregon coming up this weekend, and if they should pull a rabbit out of a hat, do that trick that we all would like to see somebody do and beat Oregon, right? Except Oregon fans or even Washington fans at this point, it's probably not going to happen, okay? Now, it ain't got nothing to do with Lincoln Riley's offense, except it kind of does. But let's start with this. Grinch is out as USC DC, which means that line coach Sean Nua and inside linebacker coach and associate head coach for defense Brian Odom, Oklahoma native, they're going to take over as the interim DCs with Taylor Mays being elevated to an on-the-field place when Taylor Mays is that dude from USC. You remember that safety that was absolutely awesome. It's going to be coaching the safeties, right? Because Grinch coached the safeties. So a lot of moving and changing as well. USC is going to try to finish the season this way. And then Riley's probably going to start looking for defensive coordinators if he hasn't already. But we got to talk about the reasons as to why we got here. It's not just that USC and Alex Grinch gave up 52 points to Washington last night in a loss, in a game where the offense scored 42. It's that USC gave up 256 rush yards on 26 rushes to Dylan Johnson. The reason that is a problem is Dylan Johnson had not rushed for more than 100 yards in a game in his career. And those 100 yards came in the win against Oregon. Outside of that, the run game at Washington has kind of been like a hood ornament. It looks nice every now and again. You might win an award with it if you're looking around. But for the most part, it's been Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, and the like who have been carrying that offense. So to see a guy like Dylan Johnson go off against that defense that is predicated on getting tackles for loss, that means stopping people with the ball in the backfield, and takeaways, that's just a bridge too far for many. In the process, Washington gave up 316 rush yards. USC gave up 360 rush yards to Washington. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, all right, that's one game. And Dylan Johnson didn't do anything to stop Grinch getting fired before he could steal USC's Christmas. However, the Pac-12 and Notre Dame had a hand in making this so, because USC has allowed point totals of 41 to Colorado, who is now 4-5, 41 to Arizona, who's 6-3 with 2 ranked wins. 48 to Notre Dame, which was great until they lost to Clemson, who's 5-4 now, and 34 to Utah, 49 to Cal, and then those 52 to Washington in a game that, frankly, USC could have won. Caleb Williams played to the caliber that he's capable. Passing for over 300 yards, still put the ball on the floor, but you kind of know that's what he's going to do because he's running around there making things happen. He didn't lose them that game, even as it was emotional for him afterwards. And far be it from me to talk about somebody being emotional after the end of a game, because I'm an emotional person. As a matter of fact, you might say that I got to this chair by being emotionally invested in the content that I make. And he is certainly emotionally invested in the content he makes as quarterback, rock star extraordinaire at USC. But the thing that I think most USC fans will point to is, RJ, there are 133 FBS teams. I know, my dude. Why are we 124th in scoring defense? That's tough. Getting up 34.5 points per game. It's tough to win football games that way, because I had told SC fans, yeah, you got Lincoln Riley. And yeah, you got a generational quarterback, a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But take it from an Oklahoma fan that had Lincoln Riley for years. You're not worried about scoring 42, which is their average at USC, by the way. You're worried about getting scored on for 45, for 46, for 48. It ain't beating people 52-49 that makes you feel good about being a football fan at night, especially when you go up against the buzzsaw called LSU that puts 63 up on your skull, and Justin Jefferson announces that he is one of the 2 best wide receivers in the entire world over your dead body, as you got Jalen Hurts at quarterback. That is how USC fans feel right now. So on the one hand, you're like, cool, finally, Grinch is out. I don't know, dog. Lincoln Riley still got to hire a defensive coordinator. What do you mean, RJ? Why are you always poo-pooing this hire? I'm not. I'm really not. I'm only pointing out these facts. The facts are Lincoln Riley was late to fire Mike Stoops at Oklahoma. Okay? He ended up with Ruffin McNeil, his mentor and a great man, as coordinator, but not the guy that was going to be the long-term dude. Okay? Then he goes and he hires a defensive coordinator that he thought could pair well with his offense. Remember how I said the offense might not be, the only thing that is going well, but also might be the thing that's holding you back? He hired Alex Grinch because he had already coordinated defense from Mike Leach at Washington State. Somebody that you could pair with an air raid style of offense. Now, Riley runs a pro raid where they're going to run the ball really, really well. And they're also going to throw the ball really, really well. But the nature of the offense is one that he thought he needed to pair with one that takes the ball away on defense, right? So if your defense can take the ball away and stop people with tackles for loss, you get the ball back in a hurry, you score in a hurry, right? So the defense is not supposed to be out there for very long. That's why they called it a speed D. And Grinch had told everybody what the plan was. We want long, rangy guys at linebacker and safety. You can't get longer or rangier than Eric Gentry at middle linebacker. Kalen Bullock is an all-American caliber safety. I know that Damani Jackson was getting picked on last night, but that dude could play too, okay? You also had Solomon Byrd and Bear Alexander on the defensive line. So I don't want to hear any of this. They didn't have the recruits that they needed. Number one, the transfer portal exists, and Riley's really good at going in there to get what he wants. Number two, everybody looks at that defense and sees the personnel. But shout out to my Sports Journalism Institute classmate and USC reporter for The Athletic, Antonio Morales, who had a really great anecdote in his column following the loss to Washington last night, where he noticed that Alex Grinch had brought the defense together on a pivotal, say that word one more time, pivotal, see RJ, you can say it, drive to stop Washington. And he had tried to do the thing the coaches do where they raise a fist in the air and try to break it down, but there was not really a whole lot of energy in the breaking down and the going out onto the field, and then they promptly go get scored on. That might have been the moment when Alex Grinch learned, like we all learned, that the defense was no longer interested in what he had to say, and he'd lost the unit. It's really difficult to coach from there, right? Read a story about former NFL head coach Josh McDaniels basically doing the same thing for the Las Vegas Raiders. If the guys that are playing the sport for you don't believe in you as a leader, it's time for you to go, right? And Riley did not want to fire his boy, his homeboy, you know what I mean? Like that's his homie. He brought him with him to SC. He stuck with him after last year when everybody's going, hey, you're giving up 46 to Tulane, my guy. You give it up 47 to a Utah team that ain't supposed to be doing that to you. And he's like, I don't feel bad about this. I think Alex Grinch is the guy. And Riley has been slow to pull the trigger on firing his defense coordinator because he also usually means you got to let go of a lot of other people. And I will applaud Riley for this part. Dude's got families, and I know that they get paid a lot of money, but nobody likes to lose their job, and nobody likes to be the person telling other people they got to take a walk. Okay? Now, that said, Alex Grinch is probably going to find another post somewhere else, and if he doesn't, he's being well compensated for that. Now, in the interim, what are you going to do if you're USC with Oregon coming? I don't know, dog. Like, that's the most efficient offense you're going to see all year. They score, and they score a bunch. They do not waste possessions. They got two tailbacks that can hurt you. They got a Bo Nix that is playing at Heisman caliber. They got a Biletnikoff Award finalist, maybe a winner depending on how things go in Troy Franklin, and Tosh Lapoy and Dan Lenny have those dudes playing lights out on defense. As a matter of fact, we're doing the thing where we say Oregon looks like the best team in the Pac-12, even though Washington beat them, and Washington rightfully we want to thumb their nose at everybody going, we beat them, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is not the kind of Oregon team that you want to be playing right now if you're USC with a different defensive play caller, or maybe it is, right? Maybe you get a spark. Maybe Brian Odom knows something that Alex Grinch doesn't, but seeing as Alex Grinch hired Brian Odom at Oklahoma, I don't know. Kind of feels like they might be doing the same thing. So maybe it's just as simple as Riley's going to go try to find somebody else that might do what Grinch does, but does it differently. I don't know, right? It'll be interesting to see what he does from that, but this is not a good look for USC fans, except to say USC's got 3 losses, and those 3 losses are all to teams that are in the top 25. One of those teams is undefeated. Another one of those teams was looking like they were going to play for a Pac-12 title, Utah. It still might, right? And another one is, well, it's Notre Dame, right? And I can continue to dunk on Notre Dame. I don't want to, but after the Clemson thing, I kind of don't have a choice. That said, if you beat Oregon, the tenor of this conversation changes if you're SC. Full stop. So if you can go get a win on Saturday because you got the Heisman winner at quarterback, go do that, and then go win your city title. You know what I'm saying? Put on for South Central against UCLA as y'all both get ready to go to Big Ten, because that's also in the offing, right? I'm wondering, SC fans, is it cool that you go win, say, at worst 7 games this year, and you come back next year, and you might have a guy that doesn't lead you to a Pac-12 or even Big Ten championship in the near future, but also keeps out of trouble, has a fun offense, wins you a couple individual honors like Heisman Trophy? I don't know. It's a question for you to answer. I like winning 10 games a year. I like having a Heisman winner at quarterback. I would love to win a national championship, but I don't want to sacrifice the opportunity to win 10 games so that we might have a national title experience. You might feel differently about having a high floor. I've always built for a high floor, because going after a high ceiling means that you're going to be in the gutter for a while. And I know SC fans, you just got done with the Clay Helton experience and y'all fair weather as it is. So I can't get y'all to go fill up the Coliseum unless that team is contending for a national championship. I understand y'all put a tarp on that thing for 15 years, but I would also point out it's been 15 years since y'all were competing for a national championship. So I'm going to just keep calling you fair weather until you fill up the Coliseum. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.